With Bills fans already starting to look ahead to the 2025 NFL Draft, especially with Brandon Beane having 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, we're going to talk about 3 players that are starting to pop up on my radar as early options for the Bills to explore as late round 1 targets. What's up, everybody? Jon Helmkamp with A to Z Buffalo. So before we start talking about these 3 prospects and why I think they might be good fits for Buffalo, let's first identify some needs that the Buffalo Bills have. The Bills could potentially have needs at wide receiver, especially if they do not bring back Amari Cooper. They have needs at pass rusher, at defensive tackle, cornerback, and safety. Those are kind of the main agreed upon positions of need for the Bills to go after in this year's NFL draft. Now, the order that they go after them is very up to interpretation. If I'm Brandon Beane, I have my groups of players at the different positions that I'm looking at, and you're taking best available. This is not a year where you're forced into doing one thing in particular. Last year in the draft, especially after trading away Stephon Diggs, it felt like wide receiver was the only position that was going to be a discussion for Brandon Beane in round 1. He ended up trading down a few picks to the top of round 2, but it felt like wide receiver was going to be the pick no matter what. This year, that's not the case. Beane has a lot of different ways that he can go. I could see him potentially trying to use those extra second round picks and move up if there's someone that he really, really likes. I could see him trying to move back because from picks 20 to 50, there's not a whole lot of consensus difference between those prospects. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does. Assuming that he sticks at pick 30, here are 3 players that I think should be on Bills fans' radar going into the draft. Number 1, Princely Umanmielen, edge from Ole Miss. Princely is a fast and twitched up speed rusher off the edge. That is his calling card and something that I think the Bills really need in a big way. I've talked about it a few times already in past videos, but the lack of success from the pass rushers really showed up in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. And I think going after an edge, whether that's going after Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or trying to select one in the NFL draft, is definitely high on the priority list for the Bills. Princely Umanmielen, for my money, might be one of the best pure pass rushers in this year's draft class. He has a variety of moves. He has a lot of strength, a lot of power, a lot of speed around the edge, and that bend is something that he's getting very, very good at. I think he's a great prospect with a really high upside. The second guy I want to talk about is Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. Now, if you guys follow me on A to Z Sports, you know that I also cover the Oregon Ducks. So in terms of the Oregon prospects in this draft class, I'm very familiar with them. I've watched a lot of their game. Derek Harmon, to me, was one of the most underrated players on the Oregon Ducks this season, and now he's really starting to gain traction, especially in the NFL draft circles, as a player that's very consensus going in the first round at this point. Derek Harmon is more of a 3-tech defensive tackle, not a 1-tech nose tech type, or 1-tech nose tackle type of guy. He's a 3-tech, which isn't necessarily the biggest need for the Bills, but I think adding more bodies into that rotation up front is still a good plan that they need to address. Derek Harmon needs to improve a little bit on his tackling. That is something that needs to be improved upon. But you're not going to find a defensive tackle in this class outside of Mason Graham that has more upside in pass rush. He's someone that generates a ton of pressure up the middle against opposing quarterbacks, and his ability to collapse that pocket, walk back interior offensive linemen is really a strength. If you can get back into the quarterback's lap, you really disrupt the play off the jump. That's something that we saw a lot from him at Oregon, and something that I think Bills fans would be really excited to have on the roster. Number 3 on my list, the last player I'm going to talk about is Matthew Golden, wide receiver from Texas. So let's talk about the wide receiver position a little bit first. If Amari Cooper is not brought back on a new contract, which I think is still very possible that that happens, but if he's not brought back, I think Buffalo is missing a wide receiver that has speed and separation abilities on the outside. I think moving Keon Coleman into more of a Z wide receiver, or to be able to have these guys be more interchangeable to move them all around Joe Brady's creative offensive scheme, would be a welcome thing. One of the things that I love the most about Matthew Golden, his releases off the line of scrimmage are lethal. They're super crispy and athletic, and he generates separation for himself. And I want to emphasize that because that's something that Keon Coleman struggles with. He's not a wide receiver that's going to create a ton of separation. We saw him struggle to create separation down the field as well as create horizontal separation throughout his rookie season. Yeah, he was dealing with some injuries. There's still a lot of time for him to grow and progress, but bringing in another wide receiver that's a more natural separator that has speed and ability after the catch, that's something that I think would really bring a lethal element to this offense on the outside. Matthew Golden is that. I love him. He's being talked about a lot right now as a day two prospect, but I think as we start getting closer to the draft, I think we can start seeing his name rising more into that pick like 30 to 40 range as a fringe round one guy, which is right in line with where the Bills are picking. I think he would be a name to watch for sure over the next couple months heading towards the NFL draft. Let me know what you guys think about these three prospects and the different positions that Brandon Beane should go after in the comments down below. I'll catch you guys next time.